students, welcome back. Today we are going to do the revision of chapter number 1 and the topic which we will see today, that is joints, the muscular system and the kinds of muscular system. So let us move forward and discuss about it. You remember that previously in the previous presentation we have studied about the skeletal system, in which we have studied about the skull, the backbone, the ribs, the limbs. Only the joints were left and the muscular system was left. So here we are going to start the joints. So what are joints? Joints helps the bones of skeletal system move. Means joints helps these skeletals, the bones, to move. They are the joints only who help these bones to move from one direction to other direction. Joints are places where two bones are joined together. This is a joint, this is a joint, this is a joint, and so on. These bones are held together by a long stretchy band called ligament. Here you can see this is a bone and this is also a bone, and this bone is attached with a stretchy band which is known as the ligament. This is the ligament. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, as you know that there are many joints in the body. Different joints allow different types of movement, but there is only one bone of the skull that don't allow movement. If you remember the skull, this is the only bone where there is no movement. Only the lower jaw movement was there. Rest there were no movements. So when we come to the types of the movable joints, we are going to see the hinge joint, the ball and socket joint, the pivot joint, and the gliding joint. So here we are going to see all these joints in detail, and here we have first joint, that is hinge joint. It is a very long joint. Here you can see this is your long joint. This is the long joint. It allows only back and forth movement. Okay, if I need to explain, then I will explain that if you see door of your house, then you see that it only moves in one direction, means it only moves back or forth. You cannot move it into 360 degree, means you cannot move or roll it towards like in circular form. So it can only either go back or come front. So this kind of thing is hinge, that is this kind of joint is found here, in which your bones are only able to move in one direction. For example, knees and elbows, you can only move your knees and elbows in one direction. After this, let us see the ball and socket joint. So here is one bone's end is rounded like a ball, and it fits into hollow socket of another bone's end. Here you can see this is empty, this is completely empty, and this is a this is a round bone which fits into it, and it's look like this. So it something look like this, and it is able to move in all direction, that is 360. For example, you can see your hip and shoulder. You can just try and move your hip and shoulder, then you can find that your bones are able to move in all direction, not only the back and forth as we have seen in the hinge joint. So let us move forward and see here, that is the pivot joint. So here is the pivot joint. It allows the movement from right to left and also up and down. The best example is the joint between your head and the skull. If you see, you can move your head in the right direction as well as in the left direction. You can move your head downwards and upward. As you say yes and no, then you move your head. So it looks something like this. So you can slow the movement of our head. So basically it is like we have this kind of joint, so that we cannot just move it in all the direction. When we move, it gives the grace to move the joint. And the best joint is the neck and the skull joint, which you all can feel and see now also. Okay, now this is the gliding joint, and the best part of gliding joint that you can feel it now. Like here, this is a bone where the slide with the bone which slide over one over the another, means there is a one bone and one another bone can slide over other, like in this form. Here you can see, for example, there is wrist and ankle. It allows to move from side to side and forward and backward. You can move with me, like you can move your wrist in right to left, up and down, isn't it? Can't you move it? So this is just because of the gliding joint. Let us see it all together here once. First we have seen the hinge joint. This is the hinge joint. The examples are knees and the elbows, which you can move only in back or forth. Afterwards there is ball and socket joint. Basically you can move around in a 360 angle, that is the ball and socket joint. Afterwards there is a pivot joint that only allows the movement in the right and the left direction, and the best example is skull and the neck. And the last one is the gliding joint, which allows to slide the one bone over the other. So let us move forward and see and learn about the muscular system. So what are muscles? So muscles are the bundle of fibers which are found under the skin. You can see just under your skin there is a bundle of fibers, and this is how it looks. If you remove your skin part, then this is the part which you will see inside your body. So these bones about which we have studied, these bones cannot move by themselves. They need something to move them. So muscles are attached to the bones and pull to make them move at joint. So these bones are able to move just because of, or just with the help of, these muscles. So every movement needs muscles. As if, like, if you want to move your hand, you need to move with the help of your muscles. And the best part is there is 360 muscles in your body, means a human body consumes of 360 muscles. Okay, so these bones are of 40% of the weight as we measure in the weighing machine. When we see the weighing machine, then the 40% of the weight is just because of these muscles. They are made up of tough elastic tissue. Muscles attached to bones by a tough band of tissue called tendons, means when two muscles are attached, then they are attached with the tendons. Now let me ask a question. If you remember that when one bone is attached to another bone, then there is a elastic that is known as ligament, and when muscle is attached with another muscle, so that is called tendons. So never forget that bone to bone, ligament, and muscle to bone, that is the tendons. So now here we see that muscles can only pull at bones. They cannot push the bones. So to move one bone in a direction, we need at least two muscles. For example, to move the lower arm, you need two muscles, that is the biceps and triceps. Here we will see how does it happen. If you want to raise your hand, then you see that your biceps become shorter and your triceps becomes longer. Here this biceps are relaxed and the triceps are your biceps are just contracted and your triceps are relaxed. Now if you want to put your hand down, then your biceps will be relaxed and your triceps will be contracted. So you can try and see that how these muscles helps in moving your bones. After this, we will see the kinds of bones. Muscle which control the movement of your body are in your control. They are called the voluntary muscles. But there are some muscles of your stomach that are not in your control. They are not in our control. So they work on their own. So they are known as involuntary muscles. For example, stomach, intestine, wall of blood, vessels, etc. And then we see the third kind of muscles, that is the cardiac muscle. The heart is basically made up of a special muscle, that is the cardiac muscle. It is involuntary. Again, it is a type of involuntary muscle and works throughout your life and never get tired. This is the speciality. Now let us see the recap very quickly. We have seen about the joints, how the joints are helpful in moving your skeleton. Then we have seen the hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint, gliding joint, muscular system. Then the three types of muscular system, that is voluntary muscle, involuntary muscle and the cardiac muscles.